Hello and welcome to the Long Ways podcast. I'm Devin Wendelsbeck,
And I'm Mike Windelsbeck.
and we are a hiking group out to hike the great long trails of the world. So we have an interesting episode for you guys today. We are talking about hiking in the country of Oman. Dad, I'm going to let you take this one and be the interviewer this time around.
Great. I love this. I never get to be the interviewer at all. I'm just go ahead and start by saying this is actually Devin's hike. And Devin was recently in Oman, and we'll kind of get into the reasons behind that in a few moments. And as is the case when any of us seems to be on a trip somewhere, we always try to find some sort of really cool trail. This is also a lot of fun for me because a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about our first hikes in Asia, and we were in Turkey, which is kind of like right there on the border. We're very close to being back in Europe again. But now we're actually going to be in Asia, in Oman. So this is going to be about Devin, and I just really want to start off with Devin. Why were you in Oman?
Yeah, of course. So I was in Oman for a 4-month Arabic program. I've been studying Arabic since college, off and on. And last year I decided that I finally wanted to go become fluent in the language. We got mostly there. It's a very difficult language. But I was living for 4 months in a small town called Nizwa in Oman. And I kind of want to kind of explain what Oman is, where it is for some of you, because it's not a country that's on a lot of people's radar. So Oman is a fairly large country, actually, in the Middle East, in the Arabian Peninsula. It is the country itself, the capital of Muscat, is about a 2.5 hour drive from Dubai, which you guys all know very well. It's a very rural country. There's one big city along the coast of Muscat. Everything else is very small towns. And it's a country that is known for being one of the most welcoming, safe, and also beautiful countries in the Middle East. So if you look at a Google map, it's going to be right down there in the south of Saudi Arabia, beside Yemen and beside Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. And so I was there for 4 months to learn Arabic and also to see another part of the world I hadn't really traveled to before. This is my 5th country in the Middle East I've traveled to. I've been to Morocco, I've been to Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, and now Oman. But this was really a unique experience for me because this was an opportunity to really live in the Middle East for half a year. So that's what I was doing there. I want to say up front, I absolutely loved Oman. Almost everyone I've ever met who's traveled there has raved about the country. It's incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly welcoming. Omanis are known for being some of the most welcoming people in the Middle East, which is already a very hospitable culture, especially to travelers. And it was surprisingly, and I did not know this going in, a place that's really good for hiking. Because if you think about the Middle East, a lot of our preconceptions are of deserts and it just being...
That was me.
Yeah.
When we first started going hiking. I was like, why would you go hiking? Where are you going to hike to?
Exactly. In Oman, there's a lot of desert in Oman. But if you look, it's very helpful to actually maybe pull out a Google map right now. If you look at where Muscat is, you type in Muscat on Google Maps or whatever, there is a big mountain range right behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the Jebel Athar mountain range. And the Jebel Athar mountain range means the Green Mountains, known because it's actually green as opposed to a lot of the rest of the country, which is desert. And it's really well known for hiking. It's really well known for outdoor expeditions. And Oman as a country has been trying to get much more tourism into the country in recent years. When I was there, this is an American podcast, there wasn't a ton of Americans, lots of Europeans. Lots of people from Germany, England, France. So there's a lot of tourism that's coming into the country now. And one of the things that the Omani government is starting to set up is more opportunities for outdoor tourism, whether that's, snorkeling or exploring some of the wadis, which are like these big river valleys, or hiking in the mountains.
Great. So, okay. So you're there. We were talking all the time while you were there. And by the way, I really want to go now too. So who knows, maybe I can get out there and do some hiking. But these trails that we're talking about, okay, now we think about all different types of trails. And one of the things that I kind of learned is that there's a lot of trails in the United States that were built as trails.
Hmm.
And in Europe, lots of times the trails were built basically to move people back and forth between rural communities, right?
Exactly.
So in Oman, okay, you're going to go hike one of these trails. So what is the origin of the trails? What are trails' purpose in
Yeah, of
these
course.
areas? Yeah.
Of course. So Oman, there's not a huge hiking culture in a lot of the Middle East. Hiking is a very now, and it's changing a little bit, but it's a very American or European thing to do. And a lot of in Arab culture, it's not so popular. There are people who do it, of course, but it's not so popular to just go up into the mountains and start hiking. So we were hiking this specific trail we were hiking was a mountain called Jebel Shams. Now this is in the bigger Jebel Athar range. And Jebel Shams in Arabic means mountain of the sun. It's called that because it's the tallest mountain in Oman. It's actually the second tallest in all of the Arabian Peninsula. The tallest is over in Yemen. And it's the first mountain to get hit by the sunlight in all of Oman. So it's called the mountain of the sun. These trails all the way up through here, Oman has a very strong tradition of what is called Bedouins. And what Bedouins are is they are traditionally a nomadic people who would move from one part to another throughout the year, usually following water or following herding of animals. And some of those Bedouins lived up here in these mountains. And so a lot of the trails that get started off, these are shepherd trails. These are walking trails that the Bedouins have used for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of their history. However, in the past about 10 years or so, there's been a big push by Oman to get more tourists in. And so the government creates these two trails on Jebel Shams, this mountain. One of them is called the W6 trail. It's a smaller trail that kind of goes along, and we'll talk about the canyon, this beautiful canyon kind of along the base of Jebel Shams. But the trail I hiked is called the W4 trail. And the W4 trail actually takes you to the summit of Jebel Shams. The second summit, and we'll get to that, actually the first summit isn't accessible. But it also takes you kind of like all the way up to the top of the Jebel Athar range. And this has been created by the government to bring more tourism in, especially European tourists, especially German tourists. We know how much Germans like to hike.
Yes, very much.
And it's a relatively recent trail. I would say it was probably built within the last 10 years. Don't fact check me on that. It could be older, but from what I understand, that's what the trail's origins are.
So we're getting ready to hike this trail. Okay. So in this area, right? This is not close by to where you are actually taking your classes. So why don't you walk us through a little bit of, if somebody else was interested,
Of course.
Before we even get onto the trail, how do you get there to where this place is? Okay.
So Jebel Shams is pretty remote, but by car, it's actually not so bad from Muscat. So I was living in a town called Nizwa. Nizwa is about an hour and a half from Muscat on some major roads. Now, just kind of to be clear here, Oman has some of the nicest roads I've ever encountered, very nice highways. And what you would do to get to Jebel Shams, let's say you're starting in Muscat. Most people are in Muscat, either they're there for business, they're there for tourism. Some people come down from Dubai because they're already in Dubai, and it's a short flight or a short drive. You're taking this major road, major highway, very nice, to Nizwa, where I was studying. Very worth the stopover, by the way. Beautiful little castle town. Lots of history there. One of the old capitals of Oman, actually, back in the medieval times. But from there, you can continue on the road to this town called Al Hamra. Now, Al Hamra is also a nice place to stop. They have these really huge caves there called the Al Huta Caves. They have a really beautiful kind of preserved in history old town that you can go visit. But this is kind of your stop to get water, to get food, to go to a restaurant, etc. The thing about hiking Jebel Shams, and especially if you hiked it like I did, where you want to hike the entire trail to the summit, you have to start early. It's very important to start early because this is about a 14-mile trail. And the 14-mile trail, if you're going from Muscat to the trail, it's about a 2.5-hour drive. An hour of that from Al Hamra is on dirt roads. So one of the things you actually need in this, and it's actually mandated by the government, is that you need a 4x4 or all-wheel drive, whichever term you like to use, which you can rent from any place in Muscat. Usually about 30 reals, which is a little over 100 US dollars, I would say, for the day. And you come up, you follow these roads along these like kind of beautiful little river valleys and small towns, and then you're going to hit a dirt road. That dirt road actually has a checkpoint there, an Omani army checkpoint. And that checkpoint's entire purpose is to make sure that everyone who's going on that road has a four-wheel drive. You show them your registration, they wave you through. They're very polite about it. From there, you're going to drive about 45 minutes up the mountain on dirt roads. Going to be honest here, there's maybe a lack of guardrails, but the road's actually really well maintained. It's I drove a four-wheel drive up it. Actually had like a Chinese car, which you don't get in the States, so that was kind of interesting to use. And it's very well maintained. Just have to take it slow all the way up. And so you're following this trail for about 45 minutes. You can plug in Jebel Shams into your GPS. It works. It works very well. Until you get to what feels like the top of the world. And then you still have an entire mountain to climb. So it's going to put you off at like this little trailhead. It's beside kind of like a tent camping kind of hotel kind of thing where people can like rent tents for the night and that kind of stuff. And then you have the entire trail to go.
So before we get you on the trail again, hold on. So I think to paint a picture for people, this is not a small mountain range we're talking about.
No.
Okay. This is not like, there's some hills like we see like maybe some in Scotland we were in. They were just kind of going up and down. This is a pretty decent mountain range.
Yeah. So Jebel Shams itself is at about 10,000 feet high.
Okay.
So that's, if you're from Denver, that might not seem very high for you. Right. But for the rest of us, that's a really decent sized mountain.
Right.
Actually, the road from Muscat to Nizwa and then to El Hamra is the only way to get through the mountains from one way to the other. Because Muscat is on the coast, and the entrance to this is kind of, you have to go through the mountains and then around them and up the back end to get here. So it's an ordeal to get there. The roads are great, but the thing to keep in mind with this, and I'll get into it when hiking the trail itself, if you're leaving from Muscat, you need to leave at like 4:35 in the morning.
That must have been murder for you. I know you were.
Yeah, I'm not a morning person. It was still a good hour and a half for us.
Yeah.
And the reason is that this trail, especially the W4 to the top, is 14 miles. Now, you think that takes you 7 hours, 2 miles per hour. Going up this trail, especially, you want to give yourself at least 10 to 12 hours to do this trail. And the reason is the elevation. The reason is the conditions of the trail are very good, but it's very steep. And so you're hiking a lot of this trail about 1 mile per hour. And I'll get to this later, we actually almost ran out of time on the trail to get sunlight, and we had given ourselves 10 hours to do it. So that's something to keep in mind with this.
So, okay, we're about to start this, but there's one more quick question I have to ask you, because I'm sure you were well prepared. So if you're getting ready to hike this trail, okay, and you're thinking about doing this, is there any special equipment or preparations that you probably need to make, that would make this trail a little bit different than some of the other ones we've done?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I would definitely make sure you get all this stuff in Al Hamra, the town before. Again, pretty major towns, supermarkets, all that kind of stuff. But this trail, so Oman's a desert. Oman throughout most of the year is very hot. But you get up into the elevation of this, and it actually gets very cold very quickly, especially around November where we were hiking, which turns out to be the major tourist season. A lot of Europeans come down during that time, and they come down because kind of the heat of the summer has broken. So one of the things I would actually recommend, layers. You might not think it when you're at the desert at the beginning, but you're going to want base layer, usually some kind of thing to throw on top of that. Good hiking pants, if you're hiking shorts, have something you can throw over that. Even gloves, maybe, because as you get to the top of it and as the sunlight starts to disappear, it gets cold up there.
What about windbreakers? I mean, obviously you don't need rain gear. I mean, that's obvious. But what about windbreakers? Is it windy up there?
It can be very windy at the top.
Okay.
You have the top of a major mountain range. There's a lot of wind up there. The other thing to really keep in mind with this is bring more water than you think you need. I typically bring about a liter per 2 miles is usually what I usually do. I do even a little bit more than that. It's a very intense hike. And the problem with this trail is that when you get to the top of the mountain, there's a couple of like small hotels and that kind of stuff. And they're really, hotel's not the right word. It's more of a house that some of the people like lend out for hikers to stay at. Some of the natives there lend out for hikers to stay at. But what I would really recommend is to just load up on water in Alhambra. Put some in the back of your car from when you return, carry an additional liter or two than you normally would on the trail, because there isn't opportunities to resupply on water up there. Likewise, I would get some stuff for lunch at the top. There's no place to go get food up there until you come back down to Alhambra. And by that time, if you're finishing up the hike, it's nighttime. And a lot of things in Oman, depending on the day, and especially if it's Friday, which is their version of Sunday, can close pretty early in the evening. So definitely bring your own food, definitely bring tons of water, and definitely bring layers for this.
Great. That's some good advice. I know that we have struggled several times with the water scenario. Ironically, when we were on the Great Glenway, we kept this water mentality. We didn't need it because there's plenty of water.
There's plenty of water. But Turkey was another example where we were low in water a lot.
Yeah, a lot. So, okay, so now we've got the logistics. We've got you at the base of the mountain. I want to hear something about this trail. I'm sure everybody else does. Like, let's just take us to the top, Devin.
Yeah. So there's 2 trails here. If you're not looking for the full 14 mile, there's a trail called the W6 trail. It also starts at the same place. And what this is going to do is kind of take you around the base of the peak itself. Really fun. It's called the balcony trail because you are walking on the balcony of this massive canyon. This canyon is called the Grand Canyon of the Arabian Peninsula. It's called Al-Nakhar in Arabic. And it's just this gorgeous, very much looks like the Grand Canyon carved through the mountains that if you want a smaller hike, I think this one's between 6 and 8 miles. You can walk along the rim of that canyon, be back. That one will take you 4 hours, 5 hours tops. Good afternoon hike. You can be back, come back to a hotel in Muscat or in a smaller town like Nizwa, again, where I was living afterwards. If you want to do the big hike, it starts at the base of this mountain and it goes up. So they don't really do switchbacks here, which we found out pretty quickly.
Okay, I'll be canceling my whole idea of hiking this one then.
So load on your pack, you go up. As you kind of go up at the beginning, it kind of feels like you're just kind of walking through like some scraggly hills. And it doesn't seem that impressive. But immediately once you get up to the top, maybe about an hour in, you're going to be on the rim of this canyon. For the duration of this hike, you're hiking along the rim of this beautiful canyon, huge sharp drops, especially in the evening when like the sunset hits it. You got all these layers of rock that just kind of like shine in the sunset, walking along the edge. And as you kind of skirt around the edge of that, it kind of points you even steeper up, and you go even further up the top of this trail. To the first summit. And the thing about this trail is that there's 2 summits of Jebel Shams. The first summit, the actual peak of it, you can't reach because it's an army base. They have a radar station up there, and there's a small army presence up there, and there's no way you can get to it. So if you're someone who like is trying to like peak bag like tallest mountains in each country, you're not going to be able to get to the very top, but you can get to kind of just below that, which has this beautiful view kind of like of the entire mountain range of Oman around you. They have like a small Omani flag there that's very picturesque. Like take a picture of that against the background. And most people we saw were finishing there at kind of the summit of the first peak. And this was about maybe 6 miles up, maybe 7 miles up, give or take. Now there's an option and we attempted this, and actually we couldn't make it the entire way. There's an option to continue along this trail and go for the second peak, the South Peak, which is only a little bit shorter than the North Peak, which is itself just under 10,000 feet. And that's going to take you about another 2 hours. It's only 2 miles away, but the thing about this trail is that, as I was saying earlier, especially when you're hiking up, you're hiking about 1 mile per hour on this. So we actually almost made it to the second one. We actually watched our time in the sunset, and we were hiking in winter. So the sun set at 5:30 here. And we realized we had to turn around. That's sometimes something you just have to make that call on certain treks. Is it too dangerous to be out here at night? When it gets colder, we don't know the area, we don't know the mountains. Let's turn around. So we hit the first peak. We did not hit the second peak. I'm still happy with it. We still got to the top of the mountain. But yeah, so there's a little bit of wildlife here. There's wild goats everywhere. But there's also, I saw, I'm a big birder. We have a birding episode on here. And like I saw like some Egyptian vultures there and like big condor kind of creatures and that kind of stuff. So that was really cool to see too. But you're really like at the top of the world. So you're not getting a lot of wildlife, though there is up in these mountains, there's kind of like these wild like orcas and that kind of stuff. They're pretty rare. You're probably not going to see them, but you could get lucky. And for the most part, you're going to be hiking with other people. We probably were hiking along the trail with about 40 other people the entire time, mostly from Europe. We only saw one group of Arab hikers there. And some of them, we did this without a guide, and it was perfectly fine to do it without a guide. But some people did have guides, personal guides, who were usually Arabs from their area, who know the mountains. They may be Bedouin themselves, and they're guiding people up. From there, turn back around, fall the entire way back down. This is where we actually got into a little bit of trouble in that I would say that the descent was the best part of the trip, not just because it was a descent, but because that's when we hit sunset. And sunset really brings out the colors of the desert. I have this beautiful picture, and, I'll post it on the blog post we do alongside this, of the sun setting behind the mountains there. You have the entire canyon just kind of lit up in a bunch of oranges and golds.
Wow.
And the temperature starts to plummet then, though. The wind starts to get really cold. That's when you start putting on your layers. And this is also, especially, I forgot to say this in logistics, you want to make sure you have a headlamp. The last hour we were hiking, we were actually hiking in the dark because we did not actually give ourselves enough time to finish it. We weren't in trouble because we knew where the trail was, we knew where to go. But I think it's very important to have a headlamp in case that happens, because if you're stumbling around the dark, especially on very rocky ledges with far drop-offs, you could be in danger. So definitely bring a headlamp. So altogether, our trip, we probably started hiking around 8:30 in the morning, which I actually think was about an hour later than we started to. We finished around 6. So we're talking about almost a 12-hour day here of hiking, a 10-hour day of hiking. I will actually say, as someone who hikes a lot, this is one of the toughest hikes I've done in a long time. We're not big peak baggers. We don't hike the tallest mountains. So if you're used to climbing 14ers in Colorado, this is going to be similar to that. But for people like us who more hike like the ridge lines or hike the valleys, this was definitely one of the more challenging hikes I've ever done. I really enjoyed it. My body felt broken for about 3 to 7 days afterwards.
Get that feeling.
But yeah, that was the hike. One of the best hikes I've done in quite a while. I'll actually say that. One of the most beautiful, one of the most challenging. And like I said, if you're not willing to do the 14 miles all the way to the top, there's that 6-mile alternate version that goes around the base of it, which people seem to really enjoy as well.
Wow, that sounds amazing, and definitely we'll be posting a lot of pictures up on our website and also up on, of course, all of our social media. And if you have any questions about this trail with Devin, please drop us.
Of course, yeah.
Drop us a line. We're coming up with a couple new features on our website and for our podcast this year, so stay tuned for those and more announcements on them. But definitely ask questions. One of the ways that we learn so much about trails is we talk to people and they say we hike something. We're like, well, tell us.
Exactly.
Yeah, they seem to leave out like little details, like there's no water in Turkey at this time of year or something like that. But just please ask Devin. And Devin, last thoughts on Oman then. You're back here in the States, and I know we've been talking a lot about it over the past couple of weeks since you've gotten back, and it sounds like an amazing country. So any last things on Oman?
Yeah, I kind of want to, again, every time we talk about the Middle East, even if we're going to Turkey, people can get, because of politics, because of conflicts in the region, people can understandably feel a little intimidated by traveling there. I kind of want to reiterate that Oman is one of the safest countries I've ever been in, period. Um, Omani people, even for the region, and Arab culture has a culture of hospitality, some of the most hospitable, some of the kindest. People really appreciate it if you attempt to speak Arabic with them. It's not a necessity, especially along the more touristy towns like Nizwa and Al Hamra that you'll be traveling through. You can speak English fine. The only things I would kind of go on is like Jebel Shams is not the only thing to do in Oman. If you're into hiking, if you're into being outdoors, check out Sharqiya Sands, which is a beautiful desert not far from Muscat, which you can do like dune buggies in and that kind of stuff. You can check out the Diameyat Islands, which are like these Maldives-style islands right off the coast of Muscat, where you can do snorkeling in. And if you're looking for a hike that's a little less intimidating, you can go to Jebel Akhtar. Now, there's the Jebel Akhtar range, and then there's the actual Jebel Akhtar. They're two separate things. But that one also requires an all-wheel drive to access. It's more small villages up in the mountains where you can come base yourself at, get lunch, and then do some day hikes around them and be back in Muscat by evening. So if you're not looking for something as huge of a hike as hiking the tallest mountain in Oman, definitely check that out. The only other thing I'd say is after living in Nizwa for 4 months, really recommend going to Nizwa for a day. Beautiful castle town, wonderful people, very special place in my heart, this little town. And if you're in the area, there's another town called Bahla, which has a very ancient castle, which is actually a UNESCO heritage site there. And just a lot of little small things to do. So if you're in the region, let's say you're in Dubai on business, or you're looking for something to do that's a little out of the way, that's a little different, really recommend Oman. I really, really do. I couldn't sing the country's praises enough. Safe country, amazing people, and incredible outdoor opportunities. So yeah, I just would recommend it from the bottom of my heart, this beautiful, beautiful country.
So we're quickly, hopefully, going to be exiting the rather fun winter season here in the States, and we're going to get back on the trails again real soon. Okay, we have a couple real fun long ways trails coming up, which I'm going to kind of hold in my back pocket here for where we're going to.
Perfect.
But just for right now, we'll build a little bit of hype for it. But
yeah,
we're heading back into hiking season, and one of the things that Devin and I are going to be working a little bit on, of course, with our friend Eric, our photographer friend, is we're going to be looking to give you some more local trails and some things which are off the beaten path. It's near some of the places we travel at during the summer. So we'll have some more content. So Devin, for this year, what are your hiking goals? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think, as always, I'm always excited to explore a new country by hiking this year. For me, I'm in the DC area. One of my hiking goals is to go explore Shenandoah more and really do some time in Shenandoah. One of the things with us hiking is we get to experience the world. I'm trying to experience more of America's backyard, more national parks, more state parks, because there's some really beautiful things there that we don't always have the opportunity to see. I'm actually going to be hiking the Redwoods in May, so maybe we get a little podcast on that too.
Great. And I will be, I'm going to be doing the same from off the Blue Ridge Parkway. I'm based in the summer out of Bowling Rock, North Carolina, one of the most beautiful places as far as I know in the world. Okay. And I'm going to be writing a little bit more about and talking a little bit more about some of those trails and some of my hikes again, which I will be back in Belize again later on this spring. And I'm hoping to start to do a couple hikes down there. Once again, not a country that's known for its hiking, but is really developing it very, very quickly due to tourism. So some things from there. So this is Mike Whittlespeck.
And this is Devin Whittlespeck.
And this is the Long Ways Podcast. And we will see you soon, hopefully on a trail.